I'm sure you have seen the first part of the video. If you have not checked the first part, then it will be difficult for you to understand this video. So in the description box, there is already a first part. I paste the link. Make sure you should check that link. Make sure you check the video before coming to this video. Hey guys, my name is Prabh Nair, and for more information, you can check my LinkedIn profile. And if you're new to my channel, do subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss my future videos on a similar topic. So this is the second part where I'm going to discuss about the governance. In my first part of the video, I have discussed about the GRC on a very high level. And now we're going to split the GRC into small videos. And in this video, we're going to discuss about how the governance works in the company. What is governance? What are the components of the governance? Okay, and why governance is important in the organization. So let's start with the first part. Hello everyone, my name is Prabh Nair and I'm working as a chief instructor at infosec training. So as I said, governance is all about set of operation. Okay, that's something what we have covered. So if you go by the definition, governance is basically all about set of operation. And we have a different type of governance: IT governance, information security governance, enterprise governance, and all that. Now, as I said, if you want to run any country, okay, we need a governance there. Now, when I say governance, mean we need a government. Okay, we need a policy, we need a law, we need regulations to manage people, manage traffic, manage structure, and creating a value. So same like in the company. Now let's take example. I want to start a business. Okay, I want to start a banking business. Okay, and to support the banking and doing expansion in the banking, I need a technology. But how the technology is linked with the bank, how the technology is basically linked with the business. We need a strategy. We need a risk function. We need a people. That is basically called as a governance. So governance is all about strategic planning. Governance is all about the roles and responsibility, organization structures. We need an enterprise architecture. We need a policy and guidance by which we implement the functions in the organization. Now let's take an example. As I said, you are preparing for a certification. Suppose you are preparing for a CISSP certification. Okay, what you need for preparing CISSP certification? You need a book. Okay, you need a videos. You need a question practice paper. So these are the three resources are required. The question is what to start, how to start, and when to start. Because you have no idea. Should I go by videos? Should I go for question practice? Should I go for books? So what you did, you create a strategy. That is an evidence of a good governance. You have created an accountability matrix that, okay, I will invite my friend, I will find an instructor, and he will basically going to deliver the training for me. So you set the clarity about who will be responsible for what. And then you basically create an entire study plan. When to read a book, when to review the videos, when to practice a question. And based on that, what happened, instructor basically created a rules for you. Make sure Monday to Friday you work hard, Saturday, Sunday, you are basically reviewing this question practice, there's a notes and everything. So that is how he created rules and regulations. By complying with all those things, by having all those things, I can able to clear my CISSP certification. But if I don't have all these things, I don't have a trainer, I don't have a resource, even I have a resource, I don't know how to follow that. So that is an example of the lack of governance. Okay, same like we taken the example of a country. Okay, in the country, if I don't have a law, then what happened? There is a person one. Okay, he will kill the person two. He enjoy that freedom. He is basically on a road. He is in a hurry. He will basically bang into someone's car. He will cross the red light and go to the other place of the particular location. Why? Because there's no rules. There is no traffic police. And that is an example of the bad governance. So we have a traffic lights, we have a rules that to be followed, that will be enforced with the help of law, and we have a government. Because of that fear, the person will basically respect the things and abide with the orders and make sure he will drive carefully and safely on the road. That is the example of governance. So governance is all about the strategy planning, organization structures, roles and responsibility, enterprise architecture, policy and guidance, and implementations. So that is what is called as a governance. Let's take a one technical example of the governance. Suppose you have a company and they want to migrate their operation to the cloud, okay, which is actually managed by a third party provider. So how governance works? So let's take an example. You're running a company called ABC. Okay, you already have a data center, you have a servers on-prem. Okay, and now you have decided that you want to move into the cloud. So you decided to move the service in the cloud, and the cloud is basically suppose AWS. Okay, so for me as a company, AWS is basically a third party. AWS is a third party. So how are you going to manage the cloud? Okay, so what we need, the first important thing is basically required a strategy. So we have to see, do we have a strategy in place? That is a one thing. Okay, so we need a strategy to define how to move service in the cloud. Do we have a strategy in the domain of a cloud computing? Second is, how should our security policy evolve around that change? So policy is required. We need a cloud security policy. Okay. Third is all about responsibility. Responsibility. Is our security organization suitable? Who is responsible for it? Or the business line? Then fourth is, when we're moving to the cloud, what is a risk? What is a risk? What is a risk associated with moving to the service in the cloud? So that's something we need to understand. Along with that, what are the controls we have? Controls are the another important thing, right? Then is there any need to review our system of monitoring? What data is basically moving in the cloud? What is the impact on our compliance with the legal regulatory frameworks? What indicators do we have to monitor the adequacy of a solution? All these things is a requirement of a good governance. So you can imagine, it's not something, okay, rocket science that you have directly moved to cloud. No, understand the strategy. We need to create a cloud security strategy. We need to create a cloud security policy. We need to specify who is responsible for what. Okay, what is the risk associated with moving into the cloud? Okay, what are the controls we have? What are the compliance we have? What is the legal regulatory parameters we have? What is the metrics we have? All those things is an example of a great governance. Now just imagine if I'm not doing any of these things, what happened? We directly move to the cloud and later on we face the breach. That is why the governance is the foundation of any organization. Even in to conduct the risk assessment, we need a people, and people is a part of the governance requirement. Okay. So question is how things works in the company, because I receive a lot of feedback. Prabh, how to start? What is, like, we say GRC, how to start? So in order to start GRC, first we need to understand the business requirement. Let's take example. You are operating a service in India, or you're operating a service in EU. You're operating a service in EU. So you understand the business requirement, you have a meeting with the customer, you have a meeting with the stakeholders, understand the vision, missions and everything. Okay, so business requirement understanding is very important. And for that, they have appointed you as a CISO. That is the first example of a good governance. Now, based on that, you will create an information security strategy, which is basically their 5-year plan. Now, when I say information security strategy, let me show you some sample of that, which I downloaded from the Google. Let me show you the example. So this is how the information security strategy look like. Okay, so it basically talk about the 5-year plan. Here you can see information security strategy, and you can notice this is basically the 5-year plan. They talk about the table of content, which include the version control for the integrity purpose. Okay, then talk about the versions, approvals, introductions, background, strategy proposals, and all that. If you notice, they talk about what is the list of activity they're going to perform, what are the list of initiatives they basically introduce, okay, in the organization. So example, like they're talking about definitions, because it is very important to talk about the definition, security threats, vulnerabilities and all that, because as a layman, the person is going to read this strategy document, because this document is give the clarity, this basically give the visibility about the security functions. Now here you can see strategy proposal, they talk about vision. Okay, They talk about the key themes like identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. So they followed the NIST methodology, and they give the clarity about how the strategy works like. Then they talk about who is responsible toward the security. Okay, now if you notice here, now they're talking about each and every activity. Now first activity is that they want to have a set goal. So here the first thing is that they want a governance and compliance. So they give the objective, they talk about the approach of building a governance and compliance, and they talk about the measurement success, because we need a metrics by which we need to measure the functions. The second part, they want a risk management. They talk about the objective, why we need risk management, what is the approach, and what is the measure. The third thing is they want a third party risk management. Okay. Then they talk about how to protect. They want a user access. So for that, they introduce the objective, like we want a IDM and all that. Then they talk about what is the approach of using IDM, what is a measurement success. Then they talk about information security awareness. Now let's take one example. They're planning to use a cloud. So they define the cloud services. What is the objective of cloud security control? What is the approach you are using? And what is the metrics? So when you're creating an information security strategy, it will be your 5-year plan, in which you're talking about the list of initiative you're planning to introduce in the organization. That is why we said building the information security strategy. Now, problem is that when you're introducing an information security strategy, okay, in which you talk about the multiple initiatives, like example, you want a information security activity, you want a IDM, identity access management, you want a cloud security control, you want a data protection requirement, you want a data privacy protection requirement. So for every activity, any kind of a system you want to introduce, you need to first introduce a policy for that, because policy basically talk about why we need that. Okay. So based on each and every activity, you are basically drafting a policy. Then you basically form the department according to the initiatives, where you set the clarity about who is responsible, accountable, consult, and informed. So we call it as a RACI chart. RACI, RACI chart. So that's a very important thing. Along with that, we conduct the risk assessment, okay, to identify what we have and what we need to achieve, because it is not necessary we have to start from zero. Might be my previous consultant has implemented some activity. So we do the risk assessment, we do the gap assessment, and based on that, we build the program management. This is also called as a program charter. So example, we said IDM. Okay, for the IDM, what are the activities we need to do? So that is part of a program management. Like we have a ISMS manual, right? So same like we have a program management. Let me show you the example of that. So how it look like. So this is how the program look like information security is a business. Then this is the program for security function. In order to implement properly, maintain robust information security function, the company name we give, agency we give. Okay, then we talk about each and every program functions like security policies, organization of information security, then asset management. We're giving a description here. So let's take example. We have a physical environmental security. So objective physical environment security is to prevent the unauthorized physical access. Okay. We discuss about the key card system, budget requirement and all that. We give the detailed security objective initiative. So that is how it works. Okay. So for each and every activity, we have a program. Okay. Program management is more like a tactical in nature. And then based on that, we build the matrix. Metrics are very important, because until unless you don't introduce a matrix, you can't measure any activity. So metrics are required. Okay, for example, I convince the management I need an incident management system. So part of a program management, we add the incident management system. But I need to measure the success of incident management system. Number of incident has been closed, number of incident has been resolved, number of incident has been dropped, right? So we need a matrix, because until unless you can't measure, you can't check the effectiveness. And based on that, you do the compliance assessment. So I have taken the NIST document, which give the visibility about how this overall process works. Okay, so this is basically the process. Now, if you notice, first I understand the interest of a stakeholder. They have a wish, they want to comply with the legal requirement, regulatory requirements and all that. And based on that, I created a goals and objectives. Okay, now here, one thing is basically missing, which is called as a strategy. So strategy basically talk about the roadmap. And after that, I have created a policy and procedure. Based on a policy procedure, I basically create a program. In program, we talk about all the list of activities. Then we basically implement those activities. Then we basically assess that activities to identify the gap and everything. So we can see we have a positive impact on the business or we have a negative impact on the business. So based on that, we introduce we modify the goals and objective, and again we modify the policy and process. So if you take an example of CISSP, okay, so suppose you are a student, you're preparing for a CISSP certification. So your interest is to clear the exam. Okay, so based on that, I have created my goals and objective to make sure you should clear the exam in a first attempt. So I introduce a strategy. Okay, when to do training, when to refer this, when to refer that, and all that. And based on that, I have created a policy. Make sure you should adhere to the policy where I will tell you some instructions. You have to follow those instructions. Based on that, I have created a 2-week program in which I discuss the topics and everything. Then I implement the program in my training. And I have seen the drastic result. People are clearing the exam and it has a positive impact on the business. So always remember, whenever we're going to review the goals objectives, when we're reviewing the policy and procedure, the biggest reason for that is based on the business impact. So that is how the entire program, entire process works in the system. So when we're talking about the overall functions in the governance, the overall management roles are divided into 3 parts in the governance. Okay. But before that, let me take one more example of the information security. So let's take an example. Stakeholder interest was to combat against the threats and everything. So based on a goals and objective, we created information security strategy. And based on that, in the information security strategy, there is one process we need to introduce, which is called as an information incident management system. So based on an incident management system, I have created an incident management policy. And based on that, I have introduced the incident management procedure, which talk about the detailed idea about how the incident management works in the company. And then we basically implement the incident management system in the operation level. So this is basically operation level. This is more like a tactical level. This is basically more on a strategic level. We have reviewed the results. It was a great results. We get a earned value contract. We can see the effectiveness. And based on that, we analyze the business impact. So that is how the process works. So first step is strategy. Then based on a strategy, we're creating a policy. Then policy, based on that, we have a program. Then we implement the program, and then we measure the program result with the help of metrics. So in the governance, we basically have a 3 type of roles. Okay. Which is called as a management roles, because management is a process of achieving the objectives. So we have a different type of management: informational role, interpersonal role, or decision role. So managers have many roles to play within the organization. So if I say information role, they are the one collecting the information. Okay, they are the one who processing the information, who using the information, which can basically affects the completion of the objectives or completion of the task. So that is basically called as an informational role. Second is called as an interpersonal role. Interpersonal role are the one who interacting with the superior subordinates. And third is basically called as a decisional role. They are the one who basically selecting from the alternative approach to resolve the conflicts and everything. Now, if you take an example of the informational role, okay, just give me a second. If you take an example of the informational role are basically, actually it is reference from the multiple books. So if I say take an example of informational role, they are the one which is basically act like a monitor, disseminators, and spokesperson. They are basically called as an informational role. But when you're talking about the interpersonal role, they are like a figureheads. Okay, they are basically a figureheads. They are the one who are the leaders. They are the one who are the liaison. Okay, they are the one who develop and maintain the network outside the office. And when you're talking about the decision roles, entrepreneurs, okay, resource allocators, negotiators. Okay, so these are basically called as a decision roles. So overall management roles are divided into 3 parts, and that is how it works in the company. Now, when we're talking about the overall strategy, overall functions, overall information security is basically, or overall governance, create a 3 type of plan, because planning the process is very important. So we have a strategic planning, we have a tactical planning, and we have a operational planning. Okay, so process of developing, creating, implementing a strategy for the accomplishment of objective is called as a planning. So first is basically called as a strategic plan. So this is basically occur at the highest level of the organization and for the long period of time, usually 5 or more years. So that is called information security strategic plan. Second is basically called as a tactical plan, which is focused on protection of production planning, integrating the organization resource at the level below the entire enterprise, such as 1 to 3 years, like information security program. And then we have an operation plan, which is a procedures, which is part of our day-to-day activities, which is for the short term. Example like strategic plan is information security strategy, in which we have a cloud security strategy. For that, we introduce a cloud security program, and then we basically introduce a cloud security controls procedures. So strategy is a long term, tactical is a mid term, and operational is basically a short term plan. So if you go by the reference, this is the hierarchy we have, okay, of the organization, because governance is basically support by the organization structure. A good governance driven by the good organization structure. So here we have a CEO. Now CEO responsible for creating an organization strategy. CIO based on that creating a IT strategy. CISO based on that creating an information security strategy. Then we have a security manager who creating a tactical plan. Then we have a security admin who implement the plan, and technical one who basically support the things. So every company is basically follow the top down approach. Okay, every company is basically follow the top down approach. CEO basically analyze the value of the business. Based on that, CIO creating their IT strategy, CISO creating their information security strategy to support the IT strategy, secure the IT strategy. Based on that, security manager creating their plan, then security administrator creating their operation plan, and technical is the one who implement the plan. So that is how the overall hierarchy works in the company. So this is all from my side on the governance part. In my next video, I'm going to discuss about the risk management, where I'm going to demonstrate practical of risk management. And then in the further video, we're going to discuss about the compliance. Do let me know how do you find this video, and do let me know your feedbacks. And if you're still not subscribed to my channel, do subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss my future videos on a similar topic. Thank you for watching my video. Goodbye.